Choogh the Squirrel by Bittie Mithal. Illustrations Partha Sengupta. This was a long time ago. When I was in boarding school, the exams were over, and in 2 days' time the summer break would begin. I was already looking forward to the journey back home, where the days would be filled with friends and fun and lots of delicious food made by our own cook. No bell would wake you at 6 in the morning to trundle off to PT, followed by a hurried breakfast, assembly, classes, lunch, games, homework. There would be plenty of time to sleep or just do nothing. In the last 2 days, we were left to amuse ourselves as there were no classes. I decided to explore the garden behind our hostel as someone had said you could find garnets in the soil. I saw the gardener's son hiding something in a tiny box. Every now and then he would open the box, touch something gently, and close the box again. On questioning, it turned out that he had a baby squirrel. I asked him if I could hold it for a second. He agreed and placed it on my palm. It was practically weightless, a little bit of flesh surrounded by the softest fur in the world. I felt very protective towards it and soon wanted to acquire it to keep as my very personal pet. Hesitantly, I asked if he would like to sell the squirrel to me. I didn't think he would part with such a lovely pet, but to my surprise, he agreed, pocketed the money I gave him, and disappeared. I was overjoyed and for a long time kept looking at it on my open palm, afraid to close the fist, lest I hurt the little thing. Finally, I moved it to my shirt pocket, where it seemed quite comfortable, and we walked back to the dormitory. Now, my top priority was to find proper accommodation for the little fellow. I remembered a discarded shoebox lying on top of the bookshelf. I took it, lined it with old socks, some cotton wool, green grass, and leaves. Some holes had to be made in the lid for air. Finally, the baby squirrel was installed in its new abode. There was an unfinished packet of biscuits in my locker, so I put one in the shoebox, hoping the squirrel would like it. There was great excitement in the dormitory. Everyone was curious to know what was in the shoebox, how I had acquired a squirrel, had I caught it or taken it from its nest, what was I going to feed it on, what I was going to name it. The baby squirrel became an instant universal pet. Everyone wanted to contribute ideas on what to do and how to do. Firstly, we had to find a name. Here, a practical difficulty arose. Before we could decide on a name, we had to find out whether the squirrel was a he or a she. We tried our best but could not resolve the problem. The general consensus was that we should assume that the squirrel was a he, and he named it accordingly. Many names were suggested, some like Cuddles, Softly, and Fluff, but all sounded trivial for this wonderful squirrel. So we went to the other extreme and came up with the name Sri Gangadharan Jagannathan Choogh. The name seemed just right, but it proved too unwieldy, and soon he became a simple Choogh. On his first evening in the dormitory, Choogh sat in my shirt pocket all the time. He seemed happy and content. Most of the time he was asleep, for only occasionally could I feel his claws scratching the shirt material. Before retiring for the night, I fed him some more biscuit and gave water with a dropper. Afraid of crushing him in my sleep, I returned him to the shoebox and secured the lid with rubber bands. The next day was spent in working out the Choogh diet. We all tried various things but found that he liked almonds, walnuts, biscuits, and dry toast. In the evening, we went to board the train, and so adequate provisions were made for his meals, and he was placed in the shoebox for the overnight journey. He seemed to find the box quite comfortable, for each time I peeped in, he lay curled under the cotton wool. We reached Delhi in the early hours of the morning. The platform was full of parents waiting to receive their wards. My parents were there too. They looked suspiciously at the shoebox I was clutching and refused to part with. Their suspicions were allayed when they found it was a little squirrel. They also started taking interest in his welfare. Very soon, Choogh became a part of the household. All friends and cousins were introduced to Choogh. Some wanted to hold him, and I would place him on the palm with instructions about not closing the fist. Choogh was happy to be in the shirt pocket, but as he grew in size, the shirt pocket appeared too small for him. His body filled out, the fur became thicker, and the tail long and magnificent. On his back there were 3 stripes running from head to tail. Legend has it that Lord Rama once caressed a squirrel and his fingers left these stripes on the back of all of them. I discovered that Choogh was happy to be inside my shirt where there was more freedom of movement. He would climb up to reach the neck and ear and then try to nibble the earlobe. His feet, which were initially ticklish, now began to scratch the skin gently. We developed a great companionship. He would sit on my desk while I played around with my computer. Choogh also discovered that when inside my shirt, if he went anti-clockwise, he would not come out as the button blocked him. On the other hand, if he went clockwise, he would emerge from between the shirt buttons. Choogh's acceptance of my dad was remarkable. Choogh would sit on the corner of the tea trolley and nibble at the sugar crystals offered to him by my dad. Choogh was free during the day to sit at my desk or get inside my shirt or climb up the curtain. But at night he buried himself under the cotton wool inside the shoebox. Later that summer, my parents decided to spend some time in Bombay. I didn't know what to do with Choogh. My parents first suggested I leave him behind, but I didn't want to be separated from him. So, after much discussion, we decided to take him with us. My mother decided that his whole shoebox would serve to carry him again, but it needs improvements. So we took it out and cleaned it. We lined it with fresh, clean cotton wool. My mother then added both a small container of food and a little bottle of water with a rubber cap. She made a small hole in the cap so that the water slowly oozed out. Choogh seemed quite happy with this arrangement. I was concerned that he wouldn't like the travel and wouldn't like the new house, but I need not have worried. Choogh slept almost through the most of the journey, and only when we were getting close to our destination in Bombay did he show an interest in his surroundings. The journey concluded safely, and we went to a place near the hanging gardens. The buildings was surrounded by big old trees with spreading branches and sprawling lawns. It gave the feel of a garden. The trees were bustling with different kinds of birds, squirrels, ants, bees, and monkeys too. The apartment we were to stay in was large. My brother and I shared a huge bedroom with a massive wardrobe where Choogh's shoebox was installed. Hearing about Choogh, one of my cousins invited us over for tea. She was very excited as she had kept a squirrel as a pet when she was in school. Choogh got royal treatment at her house. A special place was laid out for him on a little table, and he had a small plate all to himself. He was served almonds, walnuts, dried toast, and sugar cubes. Choogh really enjoyed himself. We left promising to return another day. To be continued.